and thank you for joining us today. My name is Rachel Spatz, and I'm the Marketing Manager here at SSH Communications Security. I'm sitting next to John Walsh, one of my colleagues, a software engineer here. And John Walsh recently wrote a blog entitled "Free Can Make You Bleed" in regards to the recent Heartbleed vulnerability. And the blog received a lot of interesting feedback, and we're going to continue that discussion today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So first off, it almost sounded like you're very against open source and you think commercial software is undeniably better.
Yeah, that's not really true. I just felt that the pro argument had gone too far in the pro direction. And really, I think that people need to look at this closer and ask the questions a lot of people aren't asking. I think a lot of people just assume that open source is better, and a lot of people are looking at it and reviewing it, so they're going to flesh out all the bugs. A lot of people are testing it, so the bugs will get fleshed out. And really, as you can see with the Heartbleed situation, that's not happening in all cases. So those arguments really could go out the window.
Yeah, because it took them 2 years to
Yeah,
discover
exactly.
that bug. Yeah.
Right.
And there certainly are a lot of different open source projects out there, but they seem to all function very independently from each other. So some would argue that it's not necessarily under-resourced, but instead it's over-fragmented.
Right, that's true. And really, I think that's the same sort of thing. The over-fragmentation has led to a lot of these projects that aren't as well known, or not as interesting or exciting, or maybe are older, but still very important, like OpenSSL and OpenSSH. They're not getting the attention and the funding that they really need. And so some of the other projects, are getting more funding. And really, I don't think any open source project's getting too much funding, but they can't really spread the funding around in that situation. So it does lead to still some projects being underfunded.
Yeah, you make some really good points, but don't you kind of have a motive behind pushing commercial software?
Right. Well, even if that was the case, it doesn't really negate the points that I make, that the projects are being underfunded. That's very clear. You can see, as I pointed out in my article, that some of these projects can't even keep the lights on. They can't pay their electric bills. And you can see that they don't have the sort of resources they need to review or test this code in a lot of situations. They're depending on volunteers to do that, and sometimes people don't have time to volunteer, or if they they might not have time to look at something that's been looked at, they think, hundreds of times or thousands of times by a lot of smart people. It'd be a waste of their time, and people's time is valuable.
So are you saying that people should not use open source?
No, I don't think so. I think open source, it's a very good idea. It has its uses. But really, the way open source is supposed to work, you're supposed to use and benefit from the project, but you have to give something back. It works as like a commune. And the expectation is, you'll find this valuable, and you'll contribute or donate in some way that really is equivalent to what you received from it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like the take a penny, leave a penny tray at the gas station.
Yeah.
And in this situation with open source, you're having a lot of people walk into the gas station, empty the entire tray into their pockets, and walk out the door without really giving back what they should. And what that'll lead to a collapse, like it does with the open source community, where people are not able to keep their lights on or hire enough people to review the code or test it as it should be. And really the point isn't just to knock open source. As I said, I felt the argument went too far in the pro direction for open source, and people weren't really thinking about the sort of things they should think about. And I just want to challenge the groupthink mentality that says, hey, this is the be-all and the end-all, there's nothing wrong with it. And I think people should ask these sort of questions. It's good to ask these questions. It can be debated, but still someone should ask the questions, not just say, hey, the open source is great, nothing wrong with it, everyone's reviewing it, and they'll catch all the bugs, and we don't have to think about it. We're getting a free piece of software, and everything's fine. And that, as you can see, that's not the case.
Yeah, some really good points. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we can continue this discussion.
Great, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.